Hey, welcome back. So glad you guys could join today. Looking forward to another awesome episode. As always, I tell people, hey, look, this guest is going to blow your mind, but I believe all my guests are going to blow your mind. I believe the conversation and stories that we'll have at this table are going to be something that are truly going to bless you. So I'm so glad that you could join us today. I hope that you can sit back and feel as though this is a safe space for you to just be able to get comfortable. Find a comfortable chair, truly feel as though we're a community for you. This is your community. And that's one thing we're even going to hit on today as far as communities, because everybody needs those communities. So I hope that you can not only feel God's glory in this moment, but more importantly, I hope that you can see God's glory in men's real stories. All right. Awesome. So I want to introduce a guest of mine today. Today's guest is a friend, a fellow JCSU alumni, class of 05 graduate, also the owner and podcast host of the BAT community, and now author of his first book, Just a Kid from Arbor Hills, a story of beating the odds. I'd like to welcome my brother, Tyrell Hughes.
Listen, man, well, thank you for having me on. It is an honor and a privilege to be on your podcast. It is an honor and privilege to be in a space where God is welcomed.
Yes.
But yeah, man, I go way back with Rob. I love talking trash to him. The moment I became Greek, I look forward to coming outside and talk trash to this guy every day.
Right. Yeah, it was almost like we both were excited about the choice and the journey we had made as far as the organizations we I got to be careful how I say that. The organizations we became a part of. But it was even better to be able to step outside and be like, oh, those are colors you chose? Yeah, my colors look way better in the sun. I'm just letting you know, But first of all, I want to start off by saying happy birthday, brother. Happy 39th birthday. You're 39 years young, and the beauty of it is as we grow, as we age, we continue to grow, and that's the best thing that so many people have begun to or gotten to witness as they see you grow in your life, and as you become an author and done so many things with your life and allowing God to use you in so many different ways. So, just want to start off by telling you that. So let me give you an opportunity to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. I'm going to give you this point where you can just jump into your bio of who you are.
All right. Well, I'm Tyrell Hughes from Albany, New York, just a kid from Arbor Hill. By profession, I work for the federal government. I've been with the federal government now. October will be 16 years. So I do investments for the federal government. I do briefings for all of our executives and stuff like that. That's my love. That's where I get my bag at. But what most people know me for is my community work. Currently, I run the BAT community, bringing all communities knowledge, which is a business, but also has a podcast component where I like to highlight individuals and organizations. And the reason why I do that primarily is because I see too much negativity. And I think a lot of times the negativity overshadows the fact that we have so many positive people that are actually heroes and sheroes every day. So I wanted to spotlight that and bring that back to the forefront.
Cool. Okay.
And then outside of that, I ran a mentoring program for 9 years that started at Johnson C. Smith originally as a student organization, and then got incorporated as a 501c3 in Albany. And ran that for 9 years, working with 12 to 18-year-olds on personal, professional, and educational development. But I'm a father of 3, married now for 8 years, living in the D.C. metro area.
Okay.
That's me.
Very cool. Okay. And it's funny because you said living in the D.C. metro area, and of course I didn't know at the time where exactly you were living, but I want to talk about how we even got seated down here at this table, because I told him that I was sitting there one day, and I don't know if it was something that I saw on social media that made me say, I need to reach out to this brother. Like like, we need to sit down and have a conversation. I need to, even though he's written his story, there's so many parts of a man's story that he may have put out there. But, of course, unless he was trying to lose us and put together a dictionary sized book, there's so many stories that, like, I couldn't put into the book. But I truly believe this brother has a story that others need to read, and I would love for him to come on my show. And so I reached out to you, and I was thinking, hey, look, homecoming's coming up. I'm sure you'll be around. Maybe we can connect the dots then, maybe if the time allows. I know how homecoming sometimes there's a blur to that. It's like you're up all day, night, blur into the morning, which folds into and so I was thinking to myself, you know what? Let me see what his time's looking like. And he's like, yo, I'll actually be in Charlotte in like 2 weeks for my birthday. Okay, God, I see what you did there. And he was like, yeah, and I would love to come on then. I mean, if you got the time. And I'm like, dude, I'll make the time. And so we ended up turning this into a morning show, a morning episode. We're up bright and early in the morning.
Got the coffee.
Got the coffee. Yeah. Just ready to go, But I knew at that point this was supposed to happen when you were like, I'm coming down there anyway in 2 weeks. And I was like, well, look, let's sit down, and who knows if this turns into a longer episode, maybe we can get back together during homecoming if we can find the time, because the beauty of this is that God has blessed me with an opportunity to be able to sit down with people, whether it be 6:30 in the morning, or if we want to make this the after party and we come up here at 3 a.m. in the morning after hanging out. I don't know if I'll be hanging out, but I'll meet you here at 3 a.m. We can make this the Waffle House. We can bring our Waffle House and put it on. But yeah, no. It was just a blessing. I knew that at that point God was behind making this conversation happen. So I thought that was super cool. So first of all, how does it feel to be an author now?
Incredible. Feels incredible. And this isn't to try to throw anything cliche out there. It just I didn't write with the intention of just trying to do a tell-all. I wrote with the intention of how can I tell my story, but tell my story in a way that is left to motivate and inspire. So to see the response I have gotten from the book is humbling, to say the least. It makes me want to tear up just thinking about it, because even hearing what you taken away from it is just like, that people are actually reading. You're reading and you're dissecting it and you're taking it away, and it's just like, wow, there was so much more. And it was just like, there's a lot of Tyrells out there in the world, and a lot more that we can create. But it's like taking the time to hone in on a particular person and build them up is huge. But being an author wasn't something that I ever dreamt about. But I do respect the author process now, and I respect the process of writing. I've always been a writer. I started journaling when I was in high school. My teacher, shout out to Miss C, my art teacher, helped me to create these 2 journals that I actually put Tupac all over the cover of the journals in acrylic, and I still have both of them. And I would take all of the lyrics from my favorite songs, cut them out of my CDs or my booklets, and put them into my journal. I still got these things to this day. But I've always been a writer. Like, I put down my thoughts on paper. Okay. But now being able to capture it in a manner that was packaged to help other people has been truly dynamic, and I'm looking forward to its continued success.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, it definitely. I mean, I can't just speak from my own perspective, because sometimes when we read books. Sometimes personally reading was always a hard thing to just take the time out to sit down and hope that the book captures your attention. I mean, which is why even with movies, sometimes you can sit down and watch a movie, and if it doesn't capture your attention in the first little bit, you're just like nodding off, and you may realize later on that it was a pretty good movie. But if it doesn't grab your attention, but right off, I will say that your book kind of like produces this thing where you're like, okay, wait, he did what? Okay, wait a minute. Look, y'all got to hold on for a second. I got to get to this next chapter real quick to see how this played out. And those are the best books. Now, think about it. It's like it has you just sitting there on the edge of your chair like, no. Either because you're like, I did that too. Or you're like, wait, I never did that. How did that play out for him? So it was really enjoying to not only read it, but like feel like I'm walking right beside you in a lot of this. Like I'm the friend he didn't talk about, but yeah, I was there too. I was sitting over there on the stoop across from him, just watching him go through a lot of this stuff and not really knowing what was going on. But now I got the background story to what actually was going on over there, or what he was really doing, or where he was going when he walked out the house with that orange rag around his head. And it was like, yeah, now I understand the background story, because so many times people are out here. We're looking at people's stories from the outside, from across the street, not knowing what they're going through. And sometimes whether we're judging them or we're just not understanding why they would keep doing what they're doing. Sometimes when you understand the shoes that a person has walked through, you then understand why they had to do that, why they had to go there, why their story took this turn. And a lot of times it's our choices that allow us to make. The beauty of it is we're given choices. We get to choose where we want to go, what we want to do. But at the end of the day, it's all about the choices that we make to get us to where we're at, because we're truly blessed to be able to come here and say, man, this is where I started. Yep. This is where I am now. And if it wasn't for the glory of God, I would not be. If it wasn't for his mercies, if it wasn't for his grace, because you talked about that in the book of how if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here now. So I'm not going to do too much more talking. I mean, I could talk about this all day long. So tell me this: what was your favorite chapter to write in this book?
My favorite chapter to write in the book would probably be. It could be gaining one's definition. I think that's chapter 15.
Okay.
Or it could be introspection. Now you about to make me have to go look at the chapter names to go figure it all out.
No, it's all good. I mean, you can just talk about what it was.
Okay, all right. So yeah. So I think writing, the greatest part or the most impactful portion of it was describing the year 2000 for me.
Okay.
And realizing that I was already somewhat going on, having like an internal civil war within myself about which direction I really want to go. Mm-hmm. And then I had these external factors that happened, to lose a close friend and lose a close cousin, and then to start to experience death at such a rapid pace at that point, where it was just like, I'm at a crossroads. It's like, is this where I want to stay? Is this what I want to embrace, or do I want to go try something different?
Right.
So writing that chapter helped me to deal with like my cousin's death. When my cousin Smurf passed, it was like I couldn't find words to really talk about it, because I felt so conflicted. I said his death is directly linked to the death that happened in the book earlier with my man Twin.
Right.
So those two deaths are interrelated. So
right.
When I'm running the streets with the guys on one side, but my family gets affected on the other side.
Right.
And it was just like, at that point I realized, one, how small Albany is, but how real life could get. And it wasn't like I hadn't seen people die or know people that passed away before that, but it hit me differently at that point. So writing that was really, really healthy for me.
Right.
Because I always felt like I needed to get it out, because my relationship with my cousin was really, really tight. So, but I just could never find the words to get it out. I couldn't find the words.
That was a lot to process.
Yeah, and at the time I was a 16, 16, I think, something like that.
Yeah, so 2000. Yeah, that's about right.
Yep. So it was like, finding the words to be able to conceptualize something that you felt for all of this time, but now having the words to articulate it. So that'll probably be my favorite part. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, personally, from my reading, I would say my favorite chapter was chapter 13. Excuse my French. That chapter right there was the chapter. In my opinion, it was a chapter where there were so many things happening in that chapter. That was when you traveled to Morocco. And I'm not going to give out too much of the book.
That's fine,
because like I want people to truly enjoy this, and I'm going to make sure that not only do I put the information to purchase this book in the bio or in the comments and all, so that you guys can truly look this up and get this yourself because you want to read this. But in that chapter, you talked about how you left what you were so used to, and it's funny because it just automatically remind me of different Bible stories, how some people had to leave what they were familiar with to go into to areas of their life where it's like, okay, where are you sending me? What do you do? And those are some of the thoughts you even had. Like, am I gonna be safe here? Yeah. Is this gonna be an area where I'll feel comfortable and everything? Like what
get kidnapped?
What could happen with me here? Like man, I mean, like they could kidnap me, and the truth of the matter is, my family's not going to pay no ransom. They're just going to be like, well, could you at least feed them really good? Like, because I can think how my family would treat you. I don't have any money. So could y'all at least take care of him? Like, maybe make him one of your own. Like, but like, best of luck with him, and best of luck with you, because I know I raised the boy. But yeah, in that chapter, you just talked about how while you were there, it was almost like you had a sense, and I've heard this before, how you felt closer to God there because you had the opportunity to truly be able to sit back and spend time with Him. Understand how even when you were in a culture of more Muslims there that would go to what is the name of
the mosque?
The mosque, right? To pray regularly. You found yourself saying, "Okay, you know what? There is something to prayer. There is an importance to prayer. There's an importance to talking to God, spending time with God." And a lot of times we don't ever really get to that place because we're spending so much time with our friends, with ourselves, with our partners. God kind of gets put on the back burner. I mean, I'll be honest. In my own life, he was sometimes the last person I thought about. It was, and normally you only think about him when you're hurting or when you're struggling or when you're down on things. Oh man, I'm sick and I just found out something. Yeah. I'm going to go to God now. Or wow, I don't know how I'm going to get through this stuff. Come on, God, I need your help in this right now. Like, where are you at right now? And so we cry out to them instead of like just crying out to Him. Sometimes just thank Him for like the fact that like I was like years ago, I was sitting somewhere where I would have never imagined ever being on this side of the earth. But I'm here in Morocco now. I'm here learning a different culture. I'm here experiencing different things that may not be comfortable to me. But as I tell people, in the uncomfortable areas is where you find your calling. Where you're uncomfortable, where you try new experiences is where you start to grow. And so, yeah, I love that chapter because of your talking about those areas of how you grew there, how you experienced different things, how you went through different mindsets, how your mind, went from a fearful area to where it went to like a peaceful, like I feel at peace here, So I love that because that's kind of where I'm at, where you're going from fear to peace and realizing that even in the uncomfortable, even in the unknown, that's where we can find the most peace sometimes, especially if we lean into God. So no, that chapter was like that. I mean, I didn't tell you that ahead of time because I didn't want to break that, ahead of time, break the seal previously when we were talking. But yeah, that chapter did it for me. Like I was like, yeah, this book. I mean, honestly, I loved every last chapter because it was, like I told you, it was like a movie. But those last few chapters, 13, 14, 15, those were like, it was like the perfect movie ending of but the crazy thing about it is it wasn't like, well, this is the end of his story. Yeah. No, that was like, we got a piece of your story. So even though that was, I want to quote a line from your book. You said, "They say God protects idiots and babies." Right?
That was both.
at this period of my life, I easily fit into one of those categories, maybe even both. Laugh out loud. So expound upon that for me.
Because, I mean, when you start to look at, well, for me, when I started to look at how many things I've escaped, how many things, could have gone the other direction. Like I said, I started off this podcast by saying that, I work for the federal government. So obviously, if you read the book, you will read about my earlier experiences. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not supposed to be
right
where you're at. And
right.
Like, no.
Right.
So, so once the selfishness leaves you and you start to realize that, I'm not just as lucky as I thought that I was, mm-hmm. you realize that there has to be a greater power and a greater a spirit at work here. So for mm-hmm. me, it was understanding that God saved me mm-hmm. before I could save myself. Right? And then he would connect me with other people who seen more in me than I seen in myself.
Right.
So at the time, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do in my community, meaning like, the things that the kids my age, for the most part, were doing. It was like, okay, street cred was everything for me.
Right.
So, those were the accolades I wanted to get. It wasn't about like, oh, he's the most studious, or da-da-da. Not to say because I was a nerd the entire time. I loved school.
Right.
But, I knew where my safety came. My safety came in my credibility. It's like, okay, I don't want nobody to come after me. So if you come after me, I got to make sure that I go for your head so that way everybody else don't come after me.
Right.
So safety was always, at the top of my list. But God provided for me. And I remember in a book I talk about how when I got kicked out of school for carrying a knife, and it was around that time that, I had made the transition to stop carrying weapons, guns and knives and stuff, right? And I had a conversation with my mom, no lie. I remember her telling me that she was just like, listen, Tyrell, God will give you whatever you need to get out of a situation, right? And it drove me nuts. And I'm just like, I don't. You asking me to leave myself the chance, Mom.
Right.
Like, listen, I know what's out here. So, and you asking me to leave myself the chance, and it's like, that's too much.
Right.
But I remember I started to sit with it, and I started to sit with it more. And I had an experience that happened one time, right? Sorry if I'm going off on a tangent. I had an experience that happened one time, and it was just like after I had the conversation with her, like. In my neighborhood, if you see a stray dog, those aren't like stray dogs you're going to see somewhere else. Like, I seen stray dogs in Morocco, and I thought that I was going to die one night coming from a club, and I'm just like, oh, man, it was like a pack of them. I'm just like, I'm about to die on the streets of Morocco, right? Because the stray dogs back home in my community are aggressive. They're coming to get you.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, man. So in the story, right after I had that conversation with my mom, she was just like, God will always give you what you need to get out of a situation. I happened to be coming, I think maybe on First and Judson. I was going somewhere, but it was this stray pit bull, right? And I'm just like, oh yeah. I'm just sitting just like, I'm having all these conversations in my brain at the time, like, okay, I can't run. I don't know what to do. So it was just like, well, listen, my mother just told me that God's going to give me whatever I need to get up out of the situation. And like I said, I was struggling with this whole concept. You asked me to leave it out the chance. I wish I had a knife or something on me right now. I'd get rid of it. You know what I mean? But it was just like, sit with it. And I'm just like, all right, she said God's going to give me whatever I need to get out of the situation. A stick happened to magically show up over here. It's
right.
Like kind of like the burning bush type situation. Right. But it was just like, oh. It's like, now how do I make it to that stick before this dog makes it to me? So, but sure enough, I made it to the stick. But I didn't even need it because the dog just decided to keep going.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, maybe she was on to something. Right? And it was just like, I use that as an example because it was more of those instances where I had to learn to trust and believe that, God was going to get me through those things. So
right.
At times when I was an idiot, or I started to move into trust that maybe there was something else different for me.
Right.
I've definitely been on both sides of the fence.
It's funny because as I hear that story, all I can ever think, and I always draw things back to stories now, things I've read and stuff like that. And as I heard that story, all I could think about was always like Daniel in the lion's den. Like, okay, yeah, you sitting here amongst lion. They're supposed to eat you. You're sitting there amongst a dog. In most cases, they are aggressive. We've always been taught that they attack. So our first thought is, okay, how can I protect myself? When sometimes you do have to kind of lean into to not what you can do, not what our strength. Even if I did have a knife, God, I need you in this moment, because even if I do have what I need, does that promise me safety? But yeah, no. Even in that moment, it was like he just kind of redirected that dog and just said, yeah, no, it's. You can keep it going. He's good. He's protected. So that's deep. That's deep. So now I'm going to put you a tad bit on the spot a little bit.
Listen, I'm here.
And when it comes to like this book, and I'm not trying to already get you to begin to write your next book, but I am though. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the air now, because in one point of your book, you kind of gave listeners like almost like a second book teaser. You know what I'm talking about? I know what you're talking about. And it may already be your plan to begin that. So, it's almost like, how sometimes as adults we have one kid and everybody's like, oh, the kid's so beautiful. So when are you going to have another one? Mm-hmm. He just got here. He just got here.
Are you gonna pay for the next one?
Why would I want to? And especially if it's maybe your second one. It's like, do you not know in the first one, I barely got any sleep. The second one just got here, but you want me to give him a twin. Mm-hmm. No, that's not what we're going to do. But as far as a teaser in the book about how God brought together your beautiful family that you have now, you kind of hit on that in that, that's a story for another book, another segment, another story of my life. So I would love for you to kind of give as much of a story as you can about like where God took you from this book right here, or where he took you in this chapter of your life to that breakout of how he brought together or got you through a lot of life challenges to get you to where you are now.
Okay. So one, I hint at the concept, and if I do a book 2, that is where I'm going. So and the concept that I hinted at was that my next book would be on co-parenting, right? And the journey, the struggles, the hurt of co-parenting, because I have 3 kids. So my oldest, a Christian, is with someone else other than my wife, and we have our own journey that deserves to be documented to get to the point of where we are now, working as a blended family. And even in that one, it's still processes and struggles in that. But I think that when you talk about something that has the potential to impact, there's like I said earlier, there's a lot of Tyrells out there that this story will impact all over the world, trying to navigate and create a roadmap of how to navigate your neighborhood and make it up out of it. There is even a larger community of people who are trying to network a healthy dynamic of how to intermingle when things don't work out, right? And you got kids involved, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, that was a long journey. That was a long process, and I really think that it deserves to be told. Like I said, I've read Blended Families by Mashamba and with Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats. I've read that book too, but that whole idea of expounding upon how she would have to deal with her hurt, I would have to deal with my hurt, mm-hmm. and we would have to reconcile for the sake of making sure that the children involved don't carry unnecessary hurt the way that we did for as long as we have.
Right.
Right.
So, that's good.
So that's where I'm on.
And look, that's so deep, because there are so many. I'm sure you saw the one of the episodes I had about blended families, and that is something that a lot of us we've created blended families. A lot of us. Situations may not have worked out over here. Sometimes we walk into different situations, but sometimes we walk into different situations carrying the baggage, not only from the last situation, but carrying the baggage from childhood. We're carrying so much baggage. It's like if somebody could see this baggage, they'd be like, your bag is way too big. You got to do something about that before you can come in here, before we can start something. But vice versa, there are so many people that they come together with their baggage, and they just kind of like they drop it in the center, and they just both lean up against it, and they just kind of they cope together with the baggage they both brought into the situation by kind of hoping that the other person will just help that baggage disappear. I just hope that you can make this, what I've been carrying, just go away. Hopefully you can complete me and make this disappear. And it doesn't work that way. And to put together a blended family, which I have done. I've put together a very intricate blended family, and that, and I don't know if I've ever said this on air. I have 3 children as well. I have a mother per child.
Okay.
And so me and my son were just talking about this the other day, about how his birthday's coming up, and he was telling me, we're gonna have a seafood boil over at my mom's house, and Amber, who is his stepmom, is going to come over and decorate. And I'm like, do you hear that? Like, do you hear that? Like, that is not even movies showcase that type of connection and love, because it's not just about the fact that they have just one day woke up and they got along. No, they realized that they both got out of their own way to realize that they both love something so much that why are we allowing maybe differences, or the fact that I still feel some type of way about him, and so because I feel some type of way about him, I feel some type of way about you too. And so it's like, okay, you know what? We both love this young man or this young woman. So if we both love this young man, and we both care about this person, and we would both do anything for him, then how are we on different teams? We're actually on the same team. But it takes us getting out of our own way, us dealing with a lot of our own hurt and pain, to realize that we're all team this child. We're all team him. We're all team her. So that's hugely important. That's very important. And I know we can say that all day long, but sometimes it takes people doing the work and realizing that at the end of the day, it's not about you anymore. It's about them. I mean, and that's in so many different areas. It's not about us anymore, because a lot of the work we're doing it to break those chains, to break those curses, so that our kids can be freed.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm breaking my chains so you don't have to carry these chains. So that's really good.
Imagine having to unlearn everything that you learned so that you can become who you're really supposed to be. Right?
Yes.
So, and like, you'll see that relationships don't work, and instead of examining the relationship and looking for areas where, maybe I could have gotten better, or maybe you could have gotten better, or maybe we could have did this better collectively, right? You'll stay stuck in this circle of hurt, instead of saying, okay, well, you know what? Well, how do I move forward, right? Moving forward wasn't something that came easy for me, because I come from a very passionate family. And like I said, my siblings, my mom, everyone probably, except for my dad, you know what I mean? Because his personality was always just laid back. He was just always just like, he didn't really take the responsibility too well. He was just, I'm just going to move. I'm looking for a good time.
Right.
So the rest of us, we'd be stuck in our emotions. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you said this. We fight. But when I met my wife, And this is one thing I always give her credit for, just like meeting her and her family helped me, because it helped me to realize that there's other families, there's other people that handle conflict differently. I used to think that every family handled conflict the same way as mine.
Right.
Right. It was just like, okay, I can't say I love you if I'm unable to tell you where you're wrong at or what I don't like or whatever it is. And it was more of a confrontational type of love.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got older, I realized that I don't want that type of love. And that's not the only type of love that exists.
Right.
So just like, listen, if I ain't paying your bills, I ain't taking care of X, Y, and Z for you, some of my opinions I can keep to myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
that's deep though. That's deep, because there's so many people that desire that relationship, and from the outside, me not having that type of passionate, aggressive relationship, I can look at other people and be like, wait, man, why y'all always fighting and yelling? But it's their way of, they believe that's the way they're supposed to show love because that's how they've always seen it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they're wrong. It's just that they believe that's normal.
Yep.
And it's okay to look at things from a standpoint of, just because that's what I've always experienced and that's what I've always seen doesn't mean that's always what was right. And if more people could look at it from a standpoint of, like, I'm not saying that the people that taught you these things are wrong or bad. I'm just saying, look at it from a standpoint is that's all they knew.
Absolutely. That's
all they knew. And that doesn't make them wrong. That's just all they knew. But when will we get to a point where we can say, just because that's all I knew doesn't mean that's what's best for this situation. That's what's best for my kids. I want to change that narrative. And so, yeah, no, it's as I tell people, I don't think my parents were bad. I think that they came with the tools, the best they had. They gave me all they had to give me. They gave me all they knew to give me. They gave me all they received. We could even say that from a standpoint of joining organizations. Sometimes we were given, or we were groomed from a standpoint of like, hey, look, this is how the organization is run. This is how we made it a part of the organization. This is how you will be groomed to make it a part of the organization. This is just how it is. That doesn't mean it's normal. It should continue to be that way, but that's just how it will be until somebody changes the dynamic. Right. So no, that's really deep. And I love the way that was put there. So tell me this: when it comes to now, how you move, like when certain people see you and have either read your book, or even if they haven't read your book, but they believe they know enough about you because maybe they read the backside, or just like, well, who does he think he is? He's an author now, like man, whatever. Like, how do you address people who feel like you are too good now for Arbor Hills? Like, oh man, you this is not us. You become something. How would you address that?
Had to breathe on that one. The old Tyrell would have handled it differently. The old Tyrell would have been like, I feel the need to confront any and everybody who has a difference of opinion about me. Right? The new Tyrell has created space for people to have their opinions about me. Right? And it took a while to get to that, because I took everything personal, especially for a long part of my life. Right? And to realize that it's not. So some of the things that people may say, be like, oh, well, you think you're better than, or you think that, you're so much different, or, some of that has nothing to do with you. But sometimes people indirectly see what they want in you. Right. And maybe they haven't realized yet for themselves. So now, I make space for it. It's normal. If I don't hear it, I expect to hear it.
Right.
It's normal. So
right.
The cool part is that the outside chatter doesn't deter me, and it doesn't scare me. So now I make room for it. I love to hear a difference of opinion now. I love to hear the fact that, well, I still don't like you for what you did to me in 1999, Tyrell. You know what I mean? You stepped on my Puma, and, I still don't like you because of that. So, but now, you make space for it. So
right.
Realize that everyone's at different seasons in life, right? And at my season, I'm still growing. I'm still getting better, right? But, I have to be able to say, in order to get to the next seasons or to go to where you're supposed to, sometimes you got to leave things behind.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
It's like, so
wow.
No, it ain't. It's never no love lost. Like, people will tell me right now, like some of my closest friends will say, "Yo, why do you love Albany so much?" Right. And I'd be like, "Listen, man, I feel like I owe Albany a lot." Right, because it made me who I am. So we have our second home there in Albany. I'm in Albany all of the time. I sponsor basketball tournaments. I do all types of events there in Albany. And he was like, "Well, you gotta." What did he say? Recently, I was in Atlanta talking to a close friend of mine. Mike Sims, and he was like, he gonna hate this, but he like, yo. So he said, yo, you have an audience that's global. But I see you always catering to, to Albany. And I'd be like, yeah, I do. I do got an audience that's global, right? But I also know what makes me whole.
Right.
Right? And it's the same thing like I was saying to you. You got an audience that's global. I can feel it whenever I see any of your postings or look at the content that you're putting out on your podcast now. Mm-hmm. But what makes sense to you is to do what God placed on your heart.
Right.
Right. And, so.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'll even go back. I'm going to take it back. Earlier, you were like, sometimes you see people that are still hurt by things that happened back in 1990. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, matter of fact, let me maybe help you put some of that hurt down for a second. Because I'm sure if you're carrying stuff from all the way back in 1990 and we're in 2020, I can only imagine what else you're carrying. But look. I'm sorry you may not fit the bill, but I want you to know I love you. I want you to know I'm sorry that you've continued to hold on to that. And whatever I can do to help you get through that, maybe even if it's, look, let's go grab you a pair of Pumas real quick or whatever the case may be. Because I noticed that what we have both been called to do is to return love. Mm-hmm. As I tell people, I'm a lighthouse. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to shine light into darkness. And sometimes people have been carrying darkness. People are in darkness. But what we have both been called to do in different areas, in our different areas, from your books to the podcast, to our content, it's to shine light into a lot of people's darkness, a lot of people's hurt. A lot of people can't get out of their hurt and their own darkness on their own. They need somebody to help lead them out. They need somebody to love on them. And it for a lot of us, we don't know how to love on people outside of our own core group. But as I tell people, it's become easy for me now to love people, not just from a standpoint of saying it, but also tapping into something I never had, which was affection. To be able to truly embrace people, because I realized that God gave me enough love. He's poured so much love into me that my cup runs over. And so I want to love on other people in any manner that I can, because I didn't always get that love. I didn't always feel that love. More importantly, I didn't know what love really was. And so to be able to truly love on people, whether it be through this podcast or just in person, recognizing that, I'm sorry that I may have made you feel that way. I truly can look back on a lot of things that could possibly hold me captive to regret and to guilt and to shame. But I can't live in that area of guilt and shame anymore, because I recognize that God doesn't see me that way anymore. I shouldn't see myself. If he can forgive me, then how can I not forgive myself? More importantly, start to forgive others for the things that I have held on to, and the hate and the frustration and the anger and different things. I gotta let that stuff go. I gotta let it go. How can I not let it go when he let go of and he forgive me for the things I did, the trail of hurt that I've left behind me? It's like, I can't live like that anymore.
And you're supposed to let it go. Let it go. One, in the prologue, the last two chapters of the prologue, it talks about how I know for some of you, you may only remember me from the period in which I was running the streets, right? Mm-hmm. You might not appreciate, or you might not understand the Tyrell where he is now.
Right.
But for those who I had offended, I apologize. So, I start the book off with this, right? And then I also say, for those who have offended or hurt me, I'm letting you know that, you're released from that too.
Right.
Right? Because what they say, hurt people, but healed people heal people. Right? So for me, it's just like, I appreciate almost everything that I've gone through. I want to say everything, but I'm going to say almost, because I'm sure it's something in there that I didn't appreciate. So I'm going to say almost everything that I've gone through, because not only have I learned from it,
right,
but it's helped me to help somebody else that later came through the situation. Even for right now, I got friends who are navigating the space of trying to get to a amenable place with their a child's mother or a child's father, right? And
right.
It's just like, oh, okay, well, give it time. Sometimes we're always trying to impose our will, our thought, our feelings on the situation. And sometimes you got to give space for God to do what only God can do.
Right.
And it took me a while to realize that, and just like, I'm so busy trying to protect myself and do everything that I can do, so I'm not considered a deadbeat dad, So it was like, but sometimes you gotta give space for God to do what only God can do.
Right.
I can't heal somebody's heart.
Right.
Nobody can't heal my heart. I have to do the work.
Yeah.
You mentioned that earlier. We're just like, people have to be able to do the work. We want a success story, a Rob being able to, navigate how blended families work, right? We want a success story, right? But are we willing to do the work that a Rob has done? We want a success story. We want a Tyrell, right? But are you willing to put in the work?
Right.
I've done therapy. I've done grief share. I've done all types of different ministries for me to have a well-rounded response, or for me to be a well-rounded human being, right? And you got to do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work. There's one book, before I forget it, How We Love. If I could recommend anything to you or your viewers, it would be, there's a book called How We Love. Okay. Everyone always will talk about.
You remember the author? If not, I'll try to put that in the. I'll find it and put it in the comments.
I'm not. I'm gonna chew their names up. It's a husband and wife.
Okay.
Chew their names up really, really bad if I try.
So so basically two authors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
got it. All right.
Yep. And it's called How We Love. There's a workbook that is associated with it too. So I would get both of them. I would get the book and I would get the workbook. But that book changed my life in probably 7 to 10 days, right? And I'm not going to give all of it away, because I think that if a person wants to do the work, or if a person wants to change, they're going to do the work.
Okay.
Some people don't really want to do the work, so they're not going to get the change. But what it does is it'll look at the context in which we look at love, and it'll say that how we love is based upon how we were introduced to love, how we were first our first introductions to love, which in most of our cases is going to be our parents.
Right.
Obviously, there's not the same mold for everybody, so it might be another guardian or somebody else that stepped into that. But how we were introduced to love is typically how we receive love and how we process love. And like you said, it doesn't always mean that it was wrong or was right, but we learned what we were taught.
Right.
As adults, a lot of people think that because we're so much age-wise removed from how we were when we were 4 or 5, 6 years old, that those experiences shouldn't matter, or they don't. But it's false. How we were introduced to love as kids affects us every day as adults.
Right.
But a lot of us still haven't made the connection just yet, and it shows up in our relationships. It shows up in our families. It shows up in how we interact with others. So this book allows you to go backwards to examine where it started, so that way you can start to see the pattern of how love is experienced in your life.
Glad to get it.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to
change
get
my
that.
marriage.
Yeah.
In,
I'm
like I said,
yeah.
about 7 days.
Okay. That I I'm already buying the book right now in my mind. Well, cool. No, that's really cool. And I love how you said this earlier. I kind of held on to it, even though I was really trying to listen more. I love how you, because you've always heard the phrase hurt people, mm-hmm. But I love how you added on there, heal people, and that is so true, because when you put a hurt person with a healed person, that's where movement starts to happen. Mm. And as I always say, one of my biggest things that really hit me, my sister-in-law told me this one time. She said, change happens when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change. And that right there, it inspired me to move forward on my own journey, because it was so correct. And that when the pain of where you're at is so bad, it's so bad that you're like, I can't stay here anymore. Then at that point, you got to shake things up. Yep. And you can't stay in that place anymore. And even though change is not popular, change is uncomfortable, change has to happen. And unfortunately, sometimes it only happens when things get so bad, instead of just like, you know what, I'm in a good place right now, but am I in the best place? And is there room for change and growth? And that's when change starts to happen, growth starts to happen. So yeah, no, I'm happy to see that we both have gotten to the point, not only in sharing our tools of how we've gotten to this place, but took the time out to do the work to get here, because it motivates others who don't believe they have what it takes to do it. It encourages others. It inspires others, and not only from just hearing you, but actually reading your book. So, definitely want to, give you your flowers while you're here, that you have truly inspired not only a lot of kids from Arbor Hill, but you've inspired a lot of kids that have picked up your book even in Morocco, or picked up in your book over in California, or picked up your book somewhere in New Zealand. You are truly going to inspire a lot of kids, maybe even adults. Because I was about to say, this is bigger than even kids. I mean, like I was able to glean from this book and say, wow. I mean, like I said, it was a movie, and I've coming from a person who has always gone more so to lean towards the movies instead of the books. I've definitely become more of a fan of reading things, because I can create the movie in my head. At that Absolutely. Point, I'm the producer. Absolutely. And so, this was definitely an awesome book, and I appreciate what you did with this. I appreciate you being vulnerable to give the world your story. And that's, I understand how important vulnerability is now, how important, it is to release that, not just only for maybe your own healing, but for the healing that this may provide for somebody else. And so, yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. I can't say that enough. Thank you. Cool, man. Well, we could run this over into like a whole part B, a part two. But, on today's segment, I don't want to run this too long. I want to definitely give you an opportunity to speak to the listeners, have maybe a final word before I close it up. But
God's glory through men's real stories is a statement, but is a testimony for so many different people. For some people who may watch this in the future, but for people who are watching it now, I really hope that more listeners and viewers take the time out to hone in on the message, because like I said, man, from the time I seen you pop back up on social media, I felt a different presence with you, right? And if you're of God, it's easy to see and feel and connect with other people who are of God, right? And I felt your message, I feel your message, and the presence is needed, right? So I'm going to say, I can't wait to continue to lead people towards this platform, because, God is significant in my life, and that's part of doing the work. whatever your spirituality path or journey is, it's gonna look different for each person, and I'm open to that. And I say that in the book. I respect difference. Everyone's got to do the work. Right. So I'm just gonna say, what you're doing on this platform is huge. Please continue to do it. Any moment that you feel discouraged in doing it, I remember what Rel said. He said, keep going, because like I said, it may not be today. We may not know when it's going to click, but everything clicks on time. And in the Bible, it says Ecclesiastes is a season for everything. It'll click when it's supposed to.
Right.
But for anybody out there who's looking to follow me, I'm on social media, Instagram. You can get me at the official Tyrell Hughes. You can also follow my business and organization, the Back Community. We highlight a lot of positive individuals and organizations, and that's at the Back, BACK community, bringing all communities knowledge. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Awesome.
And go out and go grab you a book.
Yeah, no, and I was definitely about to plug that now. I was about to say, listen to me. That's just another community for you guys to tap into, because you can never have enough of a community around you. You can never actually. There are so many different communities that will pour into you, pour into what you're wanting to do, pour in what you're already doing. And so his community is a great community as to definitely feel the presence of what he's putting out there, the knowledge he's putting out there. And more importantly, you got to go and get this book. I mean, as you see, I got my tabs in my book from just where I read things that I was like, I got to follow back up. This book was a great read. And so I'm going to put this, of course, the information to get this book in the comment section. I'm going to put this information out there, as he just gave you a lot of the information, but I'm going to make sure there's links there for you to be able to purchase it yourself. Awesome book. And you might even get lucky enough for him to actually, if he hasn't been overwhelmed with orders, he might even autograph your book and put even a message in there to encourage you. So I definitely would recommend you purchase this. Brother, I appreciate you coming on today. Love you for coming on today to be able to share with my listeners.
Thank you.
Yes. And I look forward to future conversations with you guys. I look forward to future stories and just the blessing that this will bring you. So yeah, be blessed, and thank you so much for joining us today. All right.
Hey, we appreciate you listening today and hope that if you enjoyed the conversation and stories, you will subscribe and listen to past and future content. Feel free to comment, as we would love to read your comments and pray over all of our listeners. Also, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at God's Glory and Minstrel Stories.
We understand as men how the thought of even facing your own story and the pain and hurt that come with that is a challenging task. But we don't want you to feel like you are all alone, because you are not. God has not forgotten you or left your side, and he loves you no matter what you have done. Your healing is important to him, and we want you to have these free resources that already exist if you're considering giving up or need someone to talk to. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. If you need support but are not in crisis, consider reaching out to a warm line if you need to talk to someone. Speaking to someone on these calls is typically free and confidential and run by people who understand what it's like to struggle with mental health. Find a local number by going to warmline.org.